Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club América in English, from tactical analysis
Pelota para la banda izquierda.
to player updates. We've got you covered on all the latest news on Las Águilas. Now, let's start the show. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the last episode of the Eagle Eye Podcast. This is a tough one to record. It's going to be emotional, it's going to be heavy, but one that we feel, unfortunately, needs to be recorded. Today's episode won't be a season breakdown or an analysis. It's, going to be us talking about a moment to be able to talk to you, the listener, the supporter, the América family that has been here for years, and it's closing a chapter that means so much in our lives. And joining me today is the guy I have to thank for making this all a possibility, our beloved cowboy and one of my best friends in life, none other than Dylan Jimenez himself. Dylan, how are you?
Dude, it's cold in Texas, man. I'm trying to stay warm. It snowed in Oklahoma on the other side of Red River last night, so.
Nice. Well, winter's here, and I guess no better fitting moment than to kind of tip our hat and wave goodbye than now, right? I know this might come as a shocker to some of you. For some of you, and I don't know, maybe you guys saw the writing on the wall. I don't know, but this is a conversation we've had for quite some time now, and I think we all decided that we were going to close out the season, and unfortunately, América didn't ride as high as we expected them to, but because of the loss to Monterrey in the Liguilla, and unfortunately the season being over, that does mean, Dylan, that we are also closing the chapter here on the Eagle Eye Podcast. I mean, it's going to sound like a very basic and very simple question for a moment like this, but I guess, what are your thoughts, man?
Just a lot of thoughts about everything, especially hearing the way you started the episode. But no, I mean, I know we'll probably talk about a little bit more toward the end too, but it was just a good run. It was a good run, but life really kind of caught up to a lot of us, and, there just wasn't the time anymore. So that's just where things kind of stand, and wish it didn't come to that, but, life does happen in a sense too. Obviously, to kind of holding my breath, hoping that América would make some type of run, to the final. We get to talk about, winning a title one more time before we ended it. But, here we are.
Yeah, that would have been kind of like the perfect moment, like the perfect kind of ending, riding into the sunset after another chip, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And look, as much as we would have wanted to continue, it's just unfortunate the way things have been kind of going for everybody here. We're just kind of being pulled in all different directions, and it's understandable, and it's something that I think we've come to realize. There's been a lot of moments where we tried to do things last minute, where we're trying to kind of pull Hail Mary to kind of get this going and keep this working, and unfortunately it's not going to be sustainable in that sense. And we think that it's better to basically say our thank yous and then a high note in a sense, and then to be producing something that is going to be, excuse my language, but kind of half-assed in that sense, and really not deliver any quality. And so we don't want that, because you guys mean so much to us. You've guys given us a platform. You guys have been able to provide something phenomenal, making two kids' dreams become a reality by just kind of listening to our ramblings and making it feel like oh, hey, these guys kind of know what they're talking about in a sense. And so,
yeah, whether it made sense or not.
Yeah, whether it made sense or not whatsoever. And, in true kind of ending fashion, I kind of just want to go back and just kind of relive in some of the moments, because I think there's just so much things that happen with this podcast that I think is just phenomenal, and I think, there's a little bit of quirky things that we can kind of bring to light and shed some light into what happened behind the scenes and everything. But I mean, I guess we should start from the top, right, Dylan? How did this podcast become a reality?
I love this story, man. I don't know how, but I found you on YouTube and you're streaming FIFA, and that's when I messaged you and was like, hey, do you want to start a podcast? And It was just like, yeah, dude, I think I was sitting in my college dorm when all this happened. Just sitting there, supposed to be probably doing homework, and I wasn't. I was watching you play FIFA instead, and then we followed each other on Twitter, and that's where it just all started, really.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because every time we tell that story to anybody, just it does feel like it was just yesterday when all of that went down. And honestly, I guess there was a prequel to that story as well, if I guess, in a sense, because we both ended up doing some work for Last Word on Soccer.
Oh yeah.
And that's where we kind of not knew each other, but we kind of found each other's work in a sense. And I'm assuming that's how it helped also be like, oh, this guy, I've seen his stuff on Twitter. Let me see what his YouTube's all about and all that stuff. Yeah, dude, it was crazy. I remember when you messaged me that, and I was like, wow, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and especially about América, but I just never knew who to do the podcast with. I just never knew who would be willing to kind of sit down and talk, and it was all new to me. I was barely getting into YouTube and gaming FIFA, and God, I was terrible. I wasn't even consistent with that. So I've started like 7 career modes with 7 FIFAs, and we never all of them got through like mid-season. But yeah, dude, it was crazy. It was great to see kind of that dream become a reality. And honestly, I have nothing but thanks to you. We started something, and Don, I never knew 8 years were gonna go and fly by just like that. I didn't know where this was gonna take us, and how far we were able to go, and the community we were gonna be able to build. But 8 years it's like you said, it's a great run.
Yeah, no, it's funny because whenever I think of this podcast, I think of also too when I graduated high school and when I graduated college, and I'm just like sandwiched like in between all of that was this, and especially past college, I was kind of thinking to myself, like when I started my career in broadcasting, I was like, I don't know if we can keep this up, and sure enough, we did. And man, just kind of like you said, Ivan, the adventures this podcast has taken us on, the games we've covered it here in Texas together, the people that we've met, being able to go to like AT&T Stadium and cover Mexico games, but of course, us just being there for the América players, so just being part of that, and the contacts we've made along the way that are still going to be valuable to us this day, despite the podcast ending. But just a lot of good memories, a lot of good friends, especially this friendship that we formed, Ivan. You didn't even have to say yes, but you did. You could have said no easily to some stranger, some kid from Texas, but here we are at the end of the day. And like I said, I was holding out hope for something for América to do, hopefully make the final, and we go from there. But alas, it's came to an end. But man, we've been through the rut with this team. We've seen obviously at Tricampeonato. It wasn't just that one. We've seen other championships too. But to be a part of this run with the Tricampeonato and everything in between. Yeah, the Solari era, and then the Tano and everything. So it's just just everything in between, man. It's just a lot to look back on in probably a short amount of time with this podcast episode that we got going right now. But man, just a lot.
It is a lot. And you said something that is very, very true, right? The friendships that we've made along the way, not just ours, but with Christian, with AJ, with Chris, these guys have been invaluable to helping continue this podcast, and they've done a phenomenal job. And we've talked to them on the side as well. They've expressed the way that they feel as well, and they're all on board as well with this decision, and they feel like it's the right thing to do. And aside from them too, we've met so many great people. Shout out to Kari, who is one of our best friends as well, and it wouldn't have been possible without this podcast. We've met journalists from ESPN, Tom. As
both
well,
Toms.
Tom Harrison. Yeah, phenomenal guy. It's crazy all the people that we've met. Shout out to Brian. Shout out to Miggy, the foot call guys. They've been phenomenal. It's crazy all the people that we've met. It's crazy all the friendships we've established along the way. Because it's one thing to meet people and network with them, but it's another thing to have a relationship and establish something, and being able to, still after so many years, just say, hey, how's it going, and pick up the conversation like it's never happened. Like our beloved friend, Rick. Hashtag thick Rick. I mean, the man literally opened his doors for us to stay in Texas.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even an America fan. He's a Santos fan, and he just liked our vibe, and he just liked who we were. And, shout out to you, Ricky, if you're listening to this. I mean, God bless, man. You are just phenomenal and just an amazing soul. But yeah, man, just like Rick, Ricky, we have so many other stories that we can tell about so many other people and who've just been amazing and great to us. And, we just, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, honestly, to all of you.
Yeah, too many people to name too. I'm sitting here thinking we're naming names. I was like, we're gonna forget somebody, but
yeah, we're gonna forget too many people along the way. But honestly, to everybody that's been a part of this journey, to every single individual that has helped us, with media credentials, that has given us information, that's been, when we were just barely at 120 or 300 followers on Twitter, and was like, hey, you guys should apply for credentials here and all that stuff. So, shout out to the Liga MX English community, because this is one of the reasons why we started and found our home in that sense. It's been, ever since we did, it's evaporated a little bit. Just, people, again, life pulls them in different directions and things. But honestly, yeah, like, shout out to everybody. That community was phenomenal, and the community we built ourselves with all the Americanistas here. The biggest thank you is going to be to them, because without them, we honestly wouldn't be.
Yeah,
we really wouldn't be anything.
Yeah. What year? Well, kind of going off track, Ivan. But what year was it? Was it 2021 when we went to the Mexico game in Arlington, and we were about to interview some fans, but then like some people recognized us, and we stopped to take a picture with them.
Yeah. That was that was 2021 or 20. Yeah, it was 2021.
Yeah, I think so.
That was probably one of the best moments ever.
Yeah.
In the history of the podcast for myself, because I don't know, we've always joked around that we always feel like, we're no experts, and we're just two guys rambling on, and we feel like we have, little to no popularity in that sense. But for somebody to recognize us and to then even ask us to take a picture with them, that is, I mean, honestly, it truly made our day. And if you're listening to this, honestly, it's the best story we ever tell whenever we talk about going and covering a game. So shout out to you, man. Shout out to you. I hope you, hopefully it was a good game for you. I don't remember how the game went for Mexico, though, but I think we ended up tying or something. But it was, I think
that was that one game where we obviously went to watch the América players, and then I think like in the second half, like they all got subbed out, so we're just like, all right, we're kind of done. We're kind of done.
Yeah.
Until the press conference.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember it was the day of the Champions League final too, because I think we went to Pluckers before.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was a great story to tell. I mean, we have so many, right? I feel like we could have a little chronicle series of everything, every little detail and every little thing. But honestly, this was great, man. This was more than just a hobby for me. This was something that I took very serious and that I super, super enjoyed from the moment we started, honestly. And I look back at our videos, and we weren't that good, and our audio was terrible. And we've grown in the way that we discuss things now is a little bit more kind of more organized. It's better. It doesn't skew too much off topic, but I think we definitely were onto something from the beginning, because we grew. I'm not gonna say rapid, right? We weren't like at 1,000, 2,000 followers right away, but we had a following, and we were making echoes even at like 300 followers. The club knew about us. Right?
Yeah.
Shout out to
Ted Brooks.
Yeah. Shout out to Ted Brooks, who came to me and said hi to me and was telling me like, hey, and know about the podcast, love the podcast. We got to do something together. And unfortunately, we never did, right? He ended up getting a move to Inter Miami, and he did a phenomenal job over there as well. But yeah, it was great to have that connection. And then, of course, afterwards, we ended up meeting the guy who would replace him with Patricio. And then, he was, just as amazing too, because, he came to us and asked us for our content so that they can post it on their accounts and stuff like that. He made the possibility of having the interview with Jen,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was crazy. It was a lot of like I said, a lot of great people that we met along the way, and there was, I don't know, a multitude of stories that we could sit here and reminisce and talk about, and but ultimately, I think the experience here is nothing but a positive one, right? Even though it feels a bit sour having to say goodbye and then having to end this. I mean, you try to sum up 8 years in a nutshell, Dylan. What do you come up with?
Exactly. You try to. How do you? I mean, I don't know. It became so part of our lives, I mean, just the love for the game, just the love for sitting here and talking about it, for an hour out of our days, It was a very good de-stress for me kind of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about nothing for about an hour, a little over an hour maybe with y'all. So it's just hard to put into words, especially, for us too, because what we've took time to build really got paid for it, and we did it out of our own hearts and, passion for, the sport and the club. And um, it's just really hard to put into words, what you ask, Ivan, because like you said, like it's just, you know, we're just done.
Yeah. It really is just kind of, that moment where you're just like, wow, it's crazy, and it is. It is. And like you mentioned, right? Like, there was never no thought of monetizing this, right? Maybe in a sense a little bit later. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that'd be cool. But the beginning concept never was about, hey, let's do this so we can kind of make money out of it. No. It was like, let's do this because we love América. We love talking about this sport. We love talking about this team. As far as much headaches as they gave us just even much more celebrations, more good stuff. And yeah, man, it was crazy because, going back and thinking about everything we did, everything we kind of spent on this without hesitation. It's, yeah, man, it's crazy. But at the end of the day, I think every penny was worth it. Every hour, every second of the time that we put into this was absolutely worth it. And, we all got something great out of it, right? Whether it was just the experience of it all or even more so, right? The friendships and the connections we made along the way. I think that's just, it's phenomenal, right? It's super phenomenal to be able to sit here and just say, wow, 8 years like that. And I think it's helped us grow and become the persons who we are today as well.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, it's I've always, like I mentioned to you guys in private, this has been the best 8 years of my life.
Oh, 100%.
And it's been because of this podcast, because of everything that we've done, And don't get me wrong, there was bumps along the way. It wasn't a smooth sailing for 8 years. But I mean, when I look back, I think we made some really funny and quirky decisions, like our merger with Resaca América. That one was that was an interesting time, and we were young and we were naive, and we thought, hey, let's do this.
Good chance to grow.
For only our first live episode to just be completely humiliated and taunted by the Mexican fans and saying, why are you guys speaking in English? Yeah, it was funny. Yeah. It just a lot of moments like that where I can just be like, maybe we could have gone a different direction. But
yeah,
again, no regret to anything. I think at the end of the day, it's what made the journey just that much, right? It's like they always say, Dylan, it's not about the destination, it's all about the journey. And we've had quite the journey to get here.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it too. I think this club has given us the highs, the lows. We've gone through a pandemic. We've gone through, historic achievements. We've seen practically everything. And I don't know, man, it's crazy to think that, we've covered this team and we've seen not just 1, 2, 3, but I think a total of 6 championships, I want to say.
Yeah, somewhere around there, I think, yeah. Obviously.
So it's the Tricampeonato with the 2018 final. We won against Cruz Azul.
Cruz Azul, yeah.
Then the Copa MX final.
Yeah.
That's 5. And I feel like am I missing anything here? I don't know. But we've seen a couple of losses too in finals, right?
Campeón de Campeones, no?
The Campeón de Campeones. That one didn't hurt as much as the one against Monterrey, though, in the Azteca with the return.
My gosh, you had to say that one.
Season. Yeah, that one was rough.
No, we never saw champions lifted.
Never saw champions lifted. We got so close. Arguably one of the worst seasons too. Whenever we played with against Monterrey versus Solari.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because Solari made him watch him lift the trophy, right? He let him stay on the pitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Told him, hey, watch this. Started Chucho Lopez in that game. I don't know why. Yeah, dude, it was crazy. We've seen so many players come and go. We've seen the likes of Henry Martin establish himself as a legend. When we first started this, he was one of those players that you just impact off the bench, and he was always like, does he stay? Does he go? Where does he really fit? And now look at him, dude. Just has cemented himself as a historical player, not just because of the championship he's lifted to, but the goals he scored. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen so much and lived through so many wonderful memories, that, yeah, it's crazy to think that in the record history of it all, there will be documentation of us talking about a tricampeonato, about a season where, we win not one, not twice, but 3 times. So, yeah, man, it's crazy, but it's crazy in a good way. And yeah, dude, I don't know. Do you have just anything in particular when it comes to America from these past 8 years that you're just like, yeah, man, this is one of the best moments or one of the best memories, without it being obviously the tricampeonato?
I would be campeonato, definitely. I mean, just
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it sounds kind of lame because you just said not to say the tricampeonato, but I mean, just to being able to see it back to back, kind of like in like a football calendar year kind of sense, not just
Yeah.
like a regular full calendar year. I mean, I don't know. It was just to me, it was so neat, because um that squad going over those few months, it just felt different, man. I mean, aside from like the 2018 final,
Hmm.
I think if I had to pick, a team between that 2018 final team and the bicampeonato team, it would be that bicampeonato team, man. I mean, that was special. I mean, that was special. A lot of great memories. The champions run was very frustrating, and I think I've said it on the record time and time
Yeah.
again. I was like, we perform better in the league than we have been, at the international stage, and it showed. Obviously, losing out. I think what was it, the semi we lost out in?
Yep, against
Yeah,
Pachuca.
yeah, but Pachuca, yeah. And so, but I mean, you talk about, we talk about like, what, 5, 6 titles that we saw doing this, but those two, are my favorite, man. No, that was a really special group, especially with uh, us kind of curious of what Hardinale was going to do coming in. I mean, obviously we saw what we did with San Luis, especially what was that, the Clausura, before he joined us, where he was. I mean, granted, like we won, but I mean, like at the same time, San Luis was just running circles around us, over those 2 lakes. Um, and
Yeah.
so yeah, and so it was just kind of like, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna bring? We liked his introductory press conference. We liked what he was saying, but we were also just all like, okay, like what he's got to bring the results, and man, he brought results quick. Tell you
Yeah.
that.
Slowly but surely, he made those comments come to life, and that was great. I mean, when you go from a manager like Piojo, and then you go to a manager like Jardine, and in between, yeah, you had a couple of different faces like Dano, like Solari, but it does feel like, uh, just from one night to another in the situation. But it's all fun. It's all great to be able to relive and to think about how each of those influenced all of us in a sense. And so, yeah, it was great. And like I said, I mean, no other words, but just grateful for the opportunity
Yeah.
to do it alongside you, alongside Chris, alongside Christian and AJ, who've just been phenomenal. I mean, honestly, we've done so much across the years, and we will always be able to have those memories, and we can always go and YouTube ourselves and kind of reminisce and laugh about all the funny moments in the podcast, or our late night
Our late night.
editions
Oh my gosh, when I was sitting in my freaking dorm, all that stuff we talk about.
with your controversial scarf. Yeah, dude,
I
it
still got
was.
that thing over. I'm sitting in my drawer.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, you got to keep it for life. Now you frame it. It's got a lot more meaning than just college now.
Yeah, I really.
So it was cool. It was just great to do all the things that we did in a nutshell. Too many to sit here and just kind of list everything and to think about everything. But just know, guys. I mean, and everything that we were able to do, watch parties when we played FIFA, online. Gosh, what else? I mean, honestly, there's too much to kind of just think about in the moment right now, Dylan. But I just, it was great, man. It was great. I think obviously we're gonna miss it, but you know, like we talked about it. It's one of these things, and where unfortunately, you know, life has pulled us in a lot of different directions. You know, I mean, is it doable to continue this? Maybe, but we would have to establish something different. I mean, right now, in a sense, I mean, we used to record at night, and you know, right now it's the middle of the day, it's noon, and we're having to record because this is the only time available to myself, and you know, it's crazy the way that, you know, life has kind of unexpectedly shifted and changed for us, you know. But at the same time, I think, you know, when you look at stuff like, for example, you know, yourself, your broadcasting career is completely taken off in a sense, and you know, you're getting pulled in all different directions, but in a good way, because you're having to do a lot of different things. You know, that's great, that's phenomenal. Christian as well. I mean, you know, he's been MIA. I think his last appearance was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
when he was on here, but it's you know, he's been busy too. He's been working. He's been doing, you know, a lot of things. AJ as well. Chris is, as well, you know, had his schedule changed a little bit, and he's a little bit more busy now during the days. And so everyone's life is taking off, and you know, I couldn't ask for you guys to put anything else on pause, you know, because you guys have to go out there, you have to go and live and continue to do what it is that you're doing, right? Like you mentioned, no one's paying us to do this, and it's not because we want to get paid, or we're ending this because we're like, oh, you know, there's no monetization, there's no real money value and all this. It's just the reality is, it's just at the moment right now we just can't sustain it from a perspective of we just don't have the time for it, and you know, we wouldn't want to give you guys something very, like I mentioned, half-assed in a sense, and poor quality. So that's the reality of it. You know, it's been difficult these past couple of months to kind of get everything in line and put out a show, and you know, sometimes I have to do solo podcasts because of it, just because honestly, you know, my time isn't lining up with your guys's, or your guys isn't lining up with each other, and you know, a lot. 2025 has been very challenging in a sense. You know, it's made things a little bit more difficult with the podcast situation, but you know, it's not to say that we didn't try. At least we tried to put in that effort, and unfortunately, life has kind of slapped us in the face and said, you know what, it's time to wake up, guys.
Yeah. No kidding, man. No kidding. But it is what it is. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are, and you know, like I said, it is bittersweet, but it's you know, we're riding off into the sunset with nothing but phenomenal memories, great friendships, great.
And a quarterfinal loss.
And the quarterfinal loss to Monterrey, which is funny because the way the podcast started, before it was even called the Eagle Eye Podcast, and we were just podcasting about América. América had just entered the Liguilla, and they faced Cruz Azul, and I remember the Thanksgiving matchup as well. So it was around this time, and we also ended up losing that one, and we got knocked out in the quarterfinals. And so, I guess it's just I guess a funny way of history repeating itself, right?
Yeah,
the way we've come full circle.
I was about to say full circle at this point, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So, but yeah, man, I don't know. We could sit here and ramble and continue to tell all these stories, but at the end of the day, I think we won't be able to cover it all. You know? No. It's so many things that I can think about at the same time. So many things I'm probably forgetting about. And yeah, like I said, I don't want to make anyone feel disrespected just because we didn't say their name, because there is a lot of people that we can just sit here and thank, like the people we've mentioned already. One of the guys too that has been phenomenal for us and has helped us really a lot in these past couple of years has been Ivan Hernandez. Shout out to you. My twin, he's done a lot for us in behind the scenes. He's helped me during game days. He's helped us get a photographer for these games as well. He's, like I said, he's been amazing as well. Just want to give him a shout out because he has done a lot in that sense. But just like him, there's been so many that have reached out and helped us. And the people that have worked with us too. It's been phenomenal. Thank you so much. I don't know, Dylan. You got anything else to say? Any last words before we wrap it up?
No, I don't, man. I just can't believe it's over.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, dude. It is absolutely crazy. And look, just because we're ending this, it doesn't mean that along the way, we might not be, we might be picking up the microphone one day, or maybe we'll do something else. It's just the reality is right now we can't put a date to it. We can't say like, oh yeah, we're gonna be back in 6 months, we're gonna be back in a year, we're gonna be back in 2 weeks, we're gonna be back. And it's the reality is it's just with the way things are right now in our lives. It's one of those things in where why even give false hope, or why even put any false pretexts into anything and say, yeah, we're potentially going to be back at around this time or whatnot. It's just better to kind of write it out, say our goodbyes, and if in the future we do end up coming back, that we could possibly do that. I mean, it's a lot of questions in mind as to what's coming next, but for all of us here on the AY podcast, it's a moment of saying our thank yous, and everyone will kind of head out and do their own thing, go our separate ways in a sense. I mean, we're still all friends, we're still all talking to each other. It's not like we're breaking up the band and all that stuff. It's just more of life's pulling us in different directions, and unfortunately, this is the time to say goodbye. 8 years and call it a day. Dylan, you've become not just Dylan, you've also become Cowboy Dan. How do you feel about that before we wrap it up here?
I always thought it was fun. I thought it was funny because whenever John Arnold asked me to do that that interview for him for, I think it was New York Times. That's one thing I told him is like I as a Texan, I could always be true to myself, but also be like an América fan. So I was always kind of grateful to be able to have that side of things in there, even between all my barbecue references I made along the podcast. So
yeah, dude, I thought it was cool because it gives like a little extra touch, right? It gives character to the podcast as well, because it's just not two people just talking. It's two different personalities.
Right.
And it was always great to be able to lean on that side too of your Texas roots and everything, and because there's a lot of Americanistas in Texas as well, and a lot of our listeners too were in Texas. So yeah, it was great, man. But yeah, dude, I don't want to run this down any more longer than kind of just want to, like they say, just rip the Band-Aid and kind of just come to an end. But yeah, I give you the floor if you have anything else to say. If not, I'll close it out.
No, I think we pretty much said it all. Just thanks to all the listeners over the last 8 years. And if joining the ride with us, like we've kind of said, all those championships that we've won, all the highs and lows. As much as we got frustrated, I think we all did, but we still stuck with this team because we love this team. It's been great. Kind of rehashing some things too. It's been great. The people that we've met, the connections that we've made, and the friendships that we formed that, just haven't ended just because they were on the pod once. And, after that, we never talked to them again. Just a lot of people to be thankful for. It's been fun. It's been great. Wish it didn't have to end, but, as Ivan said, life's happened a lot to both of us, to just everybody that's helped us, with this podcast, us two, Chris, AJ, Christian. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we end, I do want to take a moment just to say something like, from my heart and really say truly thank you to all of you. When we started the Eagle Eye podcast, I've like I've said, I've never imagined where this journey would take us. I never imagined how far and just how much we would grow. Sitting here thinking about from the early beginnings, covering our first ever Club América game in Fresno. I remember, getting the email confirmation. Just, I just remember how nervous I was going into the press box and just kind of thinking like, wow, how's this, how's this even real? Like, how did we get here type of situation? And honestly, the truth is we were there and we are here just because of you guys, the listeners. It was because of you guys that we were able to accomplish and do so much. And, to then think, just like a couple of years ago when I announced and I tweeted that I was going to be a father, and I was able to post that on our Twitter page, and just the love and the gratitude and everything that I received, like all the comments from everybody, like whether they were, friends of the podcast or listeners, like it was one of those moments that you were just like, wow, this is amazing. This is crazy, And at that point, it felt like you guys just weren't a listener. You were in a sense like family. And I was able to celebrate that, the biggest moment actually in my life, with all of you in that sense. And so I'll never forget that. So thank you, honestly, for everything. I'm proud of what we built. And we were the only Club America podcast that was dedicated to covering them here in the United States and in English. It set us apart. We dedicated so much to covering this team with passion and respect, and people recognized us for that, and they trusted us in a sense, and they believed us. So because of all of you, who tuned into our live podcast, who listened to our podcast, and you guys made the dream feel like a reality. But yeah, as proud as I am, saying goodbye does hurt, obviously. It hurts deep down because it feels like, in a way, I've let the people down. I feel like I've let the listeners down. I feel like I've let my co-host down, and I've battled with that feeling of not holding myself too accountable. But it does feel like that. I felt like I was the captain of the ship, and now, in true pirate ideology, I'm going down with it.
They were going down together. We're going down with it together.
All right. I like it. But I just want to leave you guys with this. Thank you. Honestly, just thank you for making us feel like our voice mattered. Thank you for letting us be part of your match days, your mornings, your drives, your routines. Thank you for giving this podcast a life. Thank you for making a dream become a reality. This is goodbye, but it's one that comes with a lot of love, with gratitude, and with the hope that, one day our paths cross again. So from the bottom of my heart, really, truly, thank you to all of you. Thank you to every single one of you who tuned in, who've listened, who have reached out, who have messaged us, who have DM'd us, followed us, and have made a connection with us. Thank you, truly, honestly, for being part of our lives for these past 8 years. And like I mentioned, the best part of our life. And for the last time here, take care. And as always, and forever, arriba, América.